Hello, hello.
Yes, Akash, we can hear you.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I am Akash Rao, and on behalf of all the organizers, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the Extended Reality and Intelligent Robotics for Cognitive Wellness workshop. It's called XRICog here at IEEE SMC 2024. In a world where cognitive wellness is becoming as critical as physical health, our workshop seeks to address the burgeoning need for innovative solutions that harness the power of extended reality, artificial intelligence, and intelligent social robotics. We stand at the intersection of human cognition, artificial intelligence, extended reality, and intelligent computing systems, aiming to foster an interdisciplinary dialogue that drives the future of mental health management, cognitive augmentation, and decision-making enhancement. We hope this gathering will serve as a catalyst for pioneering advancements in how intelligent and immersive systems can be designed, deployed, and scaled to foster not just cognitive performance, but holistic wellness in our increasingly complex world. So our first speaker today is Dr. Gunyan Trivedi, who is the co-founder of Wellness Space LLP, an organization which is focused on integrating wellness practices with modern science to promote holistic health. With a background in biomedical engineering and mind-body medicine, Dr. Trivedi specializes in stress management, emotional well-being, and mind-body therapies. He has a keen interest in using biofeedback and other scientific approaches to facilitate mental and emotional healing. His work often bridges the gap between traditional wellness practices and contemporary scientific methods, aiming to provide personalized health solutions that foster mental, emotional, and physical wellness. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Akash, and good morning, everyone. I will be sharing my screen in a second, so you should be able to. Okay. Is my screen clear, Akash?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, so I will take everyone through our experiences and share some insights on what could be explored in the extended reality and the robotics world for well-being. And a little background about what we do. We have a team of different people, some of them experts who guide us, and then our therapists. And we work on providing training based on scientific evidence to psychotherapists as well as individual sessions. And the areas are highlighted here for perspective. I've done a lot of work on HRV biofeedback, and now we work on depression, anxiety, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And with that context, I will take you through what are our insights and how that could be of value to the team. Okay. Question is, why should we focus on well-being and not the issues? I'll take you through some terms, and then using my approach that I worked in global corporations on strategy, we will go through where should we focus on or where to play, and then eventually once we decide which areas we want to focus, then the execution starts on how to get the best out. Okay, and I have 2 or 3 examples where I drive home this approach and would love to get questions and inputs. So I'm recapping this, assuming everyone knows the whole biomedical idea of healthcare is not working. It's well established, and given that we have a reductionist approach, the focus must shift from disease management to eventually quality of life and well-being. And therefore, the element of prevention is given, and this is where the technology can be a huge enabler. The proof is very clear. If you look at US, where even before COVID, the life expectancy has been going down, which means quantity is suffering. I mean, that's a big deal. We're not talking even quality here, quality of life. Chronic disease, especially non-communicable disease, even after adjusting for COVID, is still a leading contributor to the cause of death. And therefore, it's very clear that we need to shift from here to longevity and quality of life. Couple of terms just so that we are clear. Well-being can be as simple as a combination of negative mood or affect and positive affect, and then overall satisfaction with life. Or it could have a more comprehensive perspective that incorporates the ancient philosophies of Panchakosha, mind-body connection, and energy, and therefore how we intertwine with environment, recognizing what is possible, what is in our control, developing relationships. So the well-being needs to be more comprehensive and not the simple arithmetic number. Okay. With that framework, we've done a lot of work on lifestyle choices as a major contributor to non-communicable disease and now mental health. Excuse me. And they are very easy to highlight them into 6 components. And interesting enough, it is also established that same lifestyle choices also have a role on communicable disease or the immune risk, immune system impairment function. And therefore, it is critical that the technology team, extended reality, uh, understands and addresses the issues related to lifestyle. And for me, the top here is stress. A lot of work is already happening on physical activity, managing that, guiding that, sleep, and that must continue. So just a framework that the understanding and addressing the lifestyle choices through technology is a low-hanging fruit, if I generalize it. Now let's shift to where to play. Here the focus is to understand which are the areas where there's a gap and what can we do. If you look at the statistics, and I'm not going to go into a lot of details here given the time, over last 100 years, if I look back at what my what data from WHO says or from the family, cholera, plague, infectious disease was a primary cause of death 100 years ago. It has shifted, and I'll show you last 20 years data. It has shifted to non-communicable disease. The issue, as I highlighted earlier, is lifestyle choices as well as certain environmental controllable factors, which are very critical for us to understand when we look at which are the areas we can focus. So if you go into data, I don't expect to go into a lot of details here, but from year 2000 to even year 2019 pre-COVID, the trend of non-communicable disease has increased as a primary cause of death in India. Taking the example of India. If I take the example of America, again the share of controllable factors is dominating in the cause of death. And notice self-harm, which is injuries, gun injuries or suicide, are all part of this list and emerging as, unfortunately, stronger contenders from 2002 to 2019. And so what does it mean? I want to just highlight that there's a lot of money being pumped. The healthcare cost as of GDP for the North America, specifically US, is almost twice compared to other developed countries, and the life expectancy is declining. So therefore, for Global South, reapplying the Western model is not going to work. And if it does, it's going to create same or worse set of issues. And it's demonstrated in all the numbers. So this is a big issue and a watch out, where not only the technology solution has to work across the globe, but it doesn't have to be residing in the Western ideas, which are primarily looking at biomedical models. So this is one big watch out as we look at technology. I don't have to share more about the economic burden of mental health. And notice, if I step back, the controllable factor has a role of lifestyle and the choices people make, and that is rooted in mind. So therefore, mental health is going to be a primary contributor or a risk factor for either quality or lower life expectancy in the future, as the numbers are already evident when you look at past couple of decades in these two countries. Okay, and industrial world over last few hundred years focused on productivity as loss of availability of the person in the factory or the shop floor. This is changing, and the disability adjusted life years uh, contributed by mental health has increased. And I was surprised to see the data that mental health has a far stronger influence on DALY compared to physical health or disability of physical nature. India is no different. It has seen an increase in the share of mental health in the DALY over last 2 decades. And unfortunately, if you look at primary cause of young people in India, where I reside, of age 39 and below, it is suicide. So India has a controllable factor, and if you look at other countries' data, it is not very different. All right, with this context, what does it mean? The shift is already clear from infectious to non-infectious, and now mental health. Mental health will have a primary role in people's quality and longevity, and relationships and society. And therefore, if you say where to play, it's so clear. Mental health, and specifically non-biomedical integrated healthcare model, is a key. Third, modifiable risk factors, both for chronic conditions as well as mental health issues. And notice there's an overlap where people with chronic conditions have mental health issues and vice versa. So therefore, quality of life and quantity both become focused. So this to me provides you a framework on where there's an opportunity for the XR to play. Uh, what does it mean? Lifestyle choices and any help we can provide, from sleep issues to physical activity in the role of lifestyle choices, could be of huge value. Managing and eventually preventing mental health is a big problem that needs to be sorted. What are the risk factors? When you talk about mental health, management is a first point. However, as a society, we should look at preventing it. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. And then, given that we know now enough about disruptive innovation, we should use these ideas to play with that framework. Excuse me. I'll now take you through what we have found out in terms of segmentation. Quick framework on what I'm going to talk about. We have done work with more than 2,000 individuals through personal interviews and therapeutic interventions. So the data I'm sharing talks about what are the risk factors for mental health. We have identified, and it's in line with global research across the world in developed and developing countries, that there are 16 experiences that adult has gone through before age 18. They have a major, they create a major risk factor, both the presence of those experiences and the frequency or the exposure in long-term mental health. Why do I say that? If you look at this data of a big number of individuals who have come to us, out of those 16 experiences, as the number of experiences increase, individuals come, this is a presenting situation, with more and more poor well-being, higher levels of depression, higher levels of anxiety, and higher levels of sleep difficulties. So if I look at the connections of what happened 20 years ago and what the adult is feeling, there is very clear research highlighting the role of childhood trauma experiences as risk factors. Okay, and the findings are not limited to these four measures that I'm highlighting. We have seen a huge correlation with suicide behavior, the presence of complex trauma or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and I call them into two components. There is a fixed component. So it's almost like an unfortunate tag, and this is where we have ethical issues about what are the experiences the individual has gone through during the childhood. This is unfortunately a fixed component, and it, as you can see on the screen, increases the risk of mental health issues later in life. And we've seen that 20, 30, 40, 50 years after the experiences happen. So by forgetting it or hiding it under the table, it does not work. Second is the variable component, and that includes examples I'll share later. And what you see on the screen is that there is a role of resilience, psychological resilience, an interesting area for extended reality experts to focus on, the inner strength and attitude. So I'll continue further. This has not been well structured, the complex post-traumatic stress disorder in ICD-10 and DSM-5, and ICD-11, the International Classification of Disease, has called it out under disorders of stress and connected it to childhood trauma. So this is emerging structure from last 5 years that I'm talking about. And this is an interesting slide, at least for me, and I thought I'll share with you. So there is data of before, as I showed you, people with higher exposure of trauma come with much poorer well-being compared to desired level, and compared to people who have no or limited exposure to trauma. What happens to them in their therapeutic journey is shown here. So 2 is after 5 sessions, and then third time point is after 10 sessions. So you can see that all of them recover, but this group of higher trauma exposure takes time to recover, and their recovery doesn't cross over as quickly as some with the group with low trauma. And this again has hundreds of samples in each group. So you can see that that fixed component I highlighted continues to play a role even when they go through therapeutic interventions by some of the best therapists we have, and this is our data. And some of this data is published, so it's a good quality structure and processes gone through institutional ethical committee and so on. Same, unfortunately, is true for depression. So the fixed component plays a role, and when you look at use of technology, please be aware of the role of fixed component and the segments that it creates, which add to the degree of difficulty in the work you'll pick up. So one obvious implications on how to win is, it would be prudent to focus on a general population with low trauma, start early, small disruptions, and eventually move to higher risk, higher fixed component solution. So this is just one interesting data, and I have this data for anxiety and other components. I'm just sharing a couple of parameters for perspective. Same is true if you look at suicide. To me is also a fixed component because it is connected to high trauma during childhood. People with no suicidal thoughts compared to those with a history of attempt come with much higher level of depression and anxiety. And therefore, there's a mix of a need for both balancing human as well as the technology role. We slice this from a variable component that I shared. So while the childhood trauma component is fixed, if I look at people who are resilient in the low childhood trauma group, they come with much lower levels of depression, and the same is applicable in high trauma. So now we're talking variable component, which is where how to develop psychological resilience is something that technology can focus versus addressing the impact of childhood trauma in a high trauma segment. I hope this makes sense to you. Similar data is there on resilience, and I have the journey of resilient people versus non-resilient people, and it has a stark difference in how they recover. So variable component to me plays an important and critical role. So with that, what should we do in terms of how to win? Focus on lifestyle choices, understand and incorporate the idea of fixed component. There are ethical issues, so it needs to be incorporated. Prevention and management is key, and all boils down to in mental health about how people cope. Stress is a given. How can we prepare people to manage stress and become resilient? Could be one major theme within the context of the fixed and the variable component. So it does mean that in the fixed component area, such as suicide behavior or major health risks, it is clear that predictive work is more likely to succeed versus gadgets and technologies. On variable component and stress and lifestyle, the technology would play a much stronger role compared to fixed component. And third, we should, with the idea of disruptive innovation, start small in a segment that we have more variable component and less of human intervention, and integrate the idea of disruptive innovation. I'll share 3 examples before I end. First, when fixed component is present. And you see on the screen on the right is a very interesting recent research in the state of Uttar Pradesh in India, where public domain data, or rather Facebook data, was used to predict the risk of suicide, and they share compelling case studies on how the model was developed using the AI, using ethical approach to prevent suicides happening live as the individuals started sharing on their social media feeds. On the left is a model we have developed under review with a journal on predicting the risk for suicide behavior. There are two components to suicide. One, actually, when the person is thinking, there's a window of few seconds to address it. But the model here is not talking that. The model is why out of 100 people, two end up thinking about suicide. What is their journey during childhood? And the data is clearly highlighting several components, from trauma to increased depression, issues with irrational decisions, as well as history of self-harm, can all be integrated to predict the risk for suicide behavior. So the fixed component has a role, and the predictive model could be more effective in a higher fixed component scenario. Looking at the variable component, and one of this is my favorite, someday I want to work more on it. On the right, you see our data, and it could be taken using Holter during a session. On the left, you see a data of a PTSD individual with their SDNN, RMSSD, HRV, heart rate variability data points. And this can help us review not only progress, but also identify if the trauma exists or the solution is effective. Here I see a very powerful collaboration opportunity between therapists and technology team. So this is another area. It is not limited to heart rate variability. It can integrate the EEG as well as other measures, and therefore this is more likely to succeed if we apply it to variable component with collaborative. And finally, I wanted to share an interesting thought on pure technology options. What you see up here is a very interesting endophenotype based evidence of meta-analysis of PTSD subjects. Two of their HRV components, high frequency HRV and RMSSD, were found to be poorer. And what you see at the bottom is one of our published research on self-hypnosis protocol that we developed using yogic principles of humming, slow breathing, guided imagery, and invoking positive emotions. At the end of this activity, these healthy women showed a very good increase in statistically significant increase in RMSSD and the high frequency normalized units power. So combining these insights into a technology framework using extended reality, incorporating games or virtual options, we could provide self-regulation technology independently, only using technology with little help from the human or therapist. So this is the third approach. Again, if we segment correctly, this approach will work well for people with low fixed component. It would be risky to apply this upfront to high fixed component, though eventually the system can learn and apply. So these three structures, to recap: fixed component, more predictive work; variable, where we can collaborate, assuming there's a fixed component of trauma in this case; and then finally, a self-paced stress management technology with awareness of fixed and variable components, but in a segment that we know is more likely to succeed, could be a third approach. And I would challenge all of us to think differently. And before I end, here is the summary. I'm not going to read through it, but I pause here for any questions. That's all I had, Akash.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the audience?
Akash, maybe I can ask one question.
Sure. Yes, sir, go ahead.
If there are no questions. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Trivedi, it was wonderful hearing you, and a lot of learning in this particular talk. So I was wondering, specifically, you mentioned, right, a few seconds before suicide. So do you see that Uh, of course, I was motivated from this movie Minority Report, where they are trying to use AI to stop crime. Of course, suicide is a different type of problem in the society, but your talk kind of brings together certain factors which may actually lead a person to that state. So do you see this something where we can make it practically applicable through technology, where some police helpline or something can get intimated, somebody is about to commit suicide, and Dr. Trivedi gets a call as well, an early warning system. So any thoughts? Please go ahead, sir.
That's a good question because it's an area where we have not chosen to play. The area, as you know, we chose was what happened 10, 20 years ago. Though there is the view I showed of the model talks about their posts. So their rantings or their unfortunate outcomes on the posts are analyzed by the Uttar Pradesh police, and they have given case by case analysis of where and how they had prevention and where and how they had false alarms. So an outcome of the person on the social media has been identified in a recent research, and that is very interesting. Two of our therapists have worked, one in Japanese suicide helpline and one in local India suicide helplines, and they have a lot of stories on how humans have helped. So it is very logical that technology takes over, and perhaps by a combination of human and technology at this point, through ideally voice recognition or the intonations and the emotions with humans while they are on the call center, and eventually the technology. So I think it's a great area, and it's something that needs to be done because our young people are dying in India of suicide, and it's something given that we ought to apply energy. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, very nice. And I think this can be an active area of research, which engineers can pursue at IEEE as well and others. Yeah, Akash, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the audience?
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Shashank.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a nice talk. My question actually arises from the fact that we have seen various gamification of certain criteria. For example, as of now, we can see storytelling with infants and like toddlers, infants, and we have started seeing a trend that there are gamified application, where we can use certain techniques to help them recover from various mental conditions, even ADHD and these broad spectrum cognitive conditions. We have seen there is an impact on their cognitive performances. Do you think there is a chance that gamification of gamification can help in reducing this traumatic experiences and applying machine learning or even any experiential based modeling techniques that can help them uh, first go through that? I'm not saying like go through that entire trauma, but go through that situation where they can um, understand what has happened and improve from their traumatic stress, and this PTSD can decrease from these techniques.
Yes, couple of thoughts. First, the individuals who are traumatized are often feeling extremely lonely, and therefore, even though there is help available, they are unlikely to seek help. So this is one area where if they can access a machine learning based application that talks stories or metaphors that are customized to their needs, I think it's likely that they will reach out to that versus humans. The underlying assumption is they all have much lower perceived social support, not what they receive, what they perceive. And therefore, they are unlikely to reach out. And that's the same extension of issues that Professor Varun talked about at the moment when people think of that. So, yes, more likely that humans will reach out. And second, we use the idea of metaphors in therapy. And what I teach in that is a tree-based classification. So and we have about 10 metaphors that work most of the time. So if we can again put that not chatbot but a more sophisticated algorithm, it can be a good resource for these individuals on a regular basis to vent out and have the system respond to them with stories that it's not you alone that you experience. This is very common, and that feels most of them feel reassured when they understand that this is very common and they are not alone in experiencing that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. If there are no more questions from the audience, we will move on to our next presentation. So our next presenter is Professor Pradipto Bishwas, who is an associate professor at the Center for Product Design and Manufacturing at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. His research focuses on human-computer interaction, assistive technologies, and user interface design, particularly in the areas of accessibility and inclusive design. Professor Biswas has developed innovative systems to improve accessibility for individuals with disabilities, incorporating eye tracking, speech recognition, and other advanced input modalities. He also works on human factors in complex systems, including automotive and aerospace interfaces, making significant contributions to both academic research and practical applications in product design and usability. Although Professor Biswas could not be here with us in person today, we are fortunate to have a pre-recorded presentation from him where he will be sharing his insights and expertise on cognitive load estimation for decision-making performance enhancement. So let us now turn to the video to hear from Professor Biswas.
Greetings everyone. In this video, I will demonstrate our research on cognitive load estimations and also discuss some applications for XR systems developed at our lab. Part of the presentation will be done by Dr. Omkar Shah, who is a gold medalist from AIIMS New Delhi and presently a postgraduate
Akash,
trainee
just to
at the
tell you,
same
we did
institute.
not get any sound online. Maybe you need to share your sound from your system. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Just give me a second.
Greetings everyone.
Yeah, are you being able to hear Professor Dutt?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
In this video, I will demonstrate our research on cognitive load estimations and also discuss some applications for XR systems developed at our lab. Part of the presentation will be done by Dr. Omkar Shah, who is a gold medalist from AIIMS New Delhi and presently a postgraduate trainee at the same institute. Myself, an associate professor at Department of Design and Manufacturing and also at Center for Cyber Physical Systems at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, India. I also work on standardization and presently a vice chairman of International Telecommunication Union Study Group 9 and also a co-chair of the interlocutor group of audiovisual media accessibility. I also a convener of BIS panel on metaverse. Earlier, I studied computer science from University of Cambridge Computer Laboratory and also worked there 6 years. As part of my postdoctoral research, I worked with Jaguar Land Rover, British Aerospace Systems, and also Technicolor. I set up Intelligent Inclusive Interaction Design Lab at IISc in 2016 after returning from Cambridge. Presently, we work on these 6 verticals, namely aviation, automotive, assistive, extended reality, robotics, and Industry 4. Often these verticals combine with each other and we have mix and match applications, and the present demonstration and presentation will be rather more a horizontal activity as the research on human factors tie together all the verticals together. This is a quick recapitulation or balance sheet of our lab. So during the past 8 years we were uh, moderately successful in terms of getting funding from both government funding agencies as well as various industries. And we also have 7 PhD students already graduated and 2 more submitted in the recent time. And also our research was covered by various media outlets during the past 8 years. So in this slide, I am just presenting 4 videos rather quickly to show the gamut of our applications. On the top left is a virtual flight simulator, and here you can see that we are running the same software as a desktop flight simulator as well as a virtual reality simulator, showing that how the rendering technology can change the way we view a flight simulator. And we developed the system to estimate cognitive load of pilots. Top right is our latest work with Group Captain Ajit Krishnan, one of the 4 astronaut designates of India, and we developed a spacecraft simulator and compared various human-machine interfaces of existing and future spacecraft. You may also see I'm donning a VR headset and a EEG device. Bottom left is one of our collaborative work with Collins Aerospace Systems, and we developed a mixed reality-based system for helping workers to manually assemble various machine parts. And bottom right is our work with students with severe speech and motor impairment. We took an ambitious approach to teach them operating robotic devices, and we deployed a system by which they can do a simple block printing task for their rehabilitation as well as educational effort. Now, seemingly these 4 different case studies are again tied together by our research on human factors and cognitive load estimation, because in all of these use cases we tried various means to understand the human factors, and cognitive load estimation was one of the main way of quantifying both subjectively and objectively the acceptability or user performance about the system. So in the next few slides, we will further elaborate on the topics of this cognitive load estimation. So if you look at the Wikipedia article on cognitive load, that it has a very simple definition, 1-line definition. And this cognitive load word was first uttered by this gentleman, George Armitage Miller. And it has also been championed by John Sweller. He is from Australia and mostly explored cognitive load among students. And cognitive load is, among psychologists, it does not have a single definition, but it is related to the finite capacity of working memory that we just discussed. Mental workload, that if I ask you to do many things, you will have more mental load. That if I, like our memory game, if I want to remember 2 words, it will have you will have more mental workload than if I want to remember only 1 word. And then based on our activity, the stress, distraction, boredom, all these has effect on the cognitive load. And why it is important, or why we are working on it, and in particular this is a press release from BBC. a mind reading combat jet for the future. So it's a UK STEM set program who are already working on assessing cognitive load of pilots, and the automotive community even one step further, they already even deployed some system for distraction detection, and we are also involved in a similar project with some many automotive industries. We will see examples, and this is also a screenshot of a press release by New Scientist in 2020 when they interviewed me for know about our work on eye tracking for pilots. But unfortunately, we did not disclose a lot of detail, but still they opted for covering that in New Scientist. So interestingly, analyzing cognitive load or affective state from ocular, that means eye related parameters, it dates back to the days of Charles Darwin. So this is one book of Charles Darwin. So all of we know about him, about the theories of evolution or natural selection. But he did interesting work on analyzing how people's pupil dilates or how their expression changes, and that has been captured through their eyes. And later on in 1950s, this book, I have a copy of the later book called The Telltale Eyes. It recorded pupil dilations when they show provocative and non-provocative pictures, and also it recorded pupil dilation across cross-gender that and also in different situations. And this is the picture of a very early stage eye tracking device which has been used, because in 1950s there was no electronic eye gaze tracker. And in next lecture we will discuss further details about eye tracking and how we detect cognitive load. Many times, unlike other parameters, cognitive load we do not measure, we rather estimate. And this estimation is often based on correlation analysis. That means we set up a task where we know that one condition will exert more mental workload than the previous condition. On the top right, you can see the picture of this n-back test, where I know that a 2-back test will exert more workload on you than a 1-back test. Or we created situations or tasks where we already assume or where we know that a certain section of the task is more difficult than other tasks. Say when I am driving, maybe parking the car in a congested parking is more require more precision or workload from me than driving on a freeway. In aviation community, they use a term called low gain task and high gain task, like landing an aircraft is a high gain task, while making a free fly with the autopilot may be a low gain task. And we created such situations in either simulation or in laboratory and compared set of physiological parameters across these different tasks and try to see their correlation. So that's why we use the term estimation in terms of measurement. And as we discussed in the previous cases, so here we are talking about task in the 10th of second to the fraction of 10th of seconds in based on the time scale of human action. We are talking at this cognitive band. So this is from a dissertation that which reported how different ocular parameters they are affected by cognitive load. So upper arrow means increasing, lower arrow means decreasing, and they represented this blink duration. This is endogenous blink, that means automatic blinks. Saccade amplitude, we discussed about saccade in the previous class in terms of the distance travel between two fixations. Fixation duration, that means how long you are looking at something. Frequency, how many times you are changing fixation within a unit time.
So after discussing the theories of cognitive load estimation from ocular parameters or EEG parameters, now we will briefly go through a few applications to show that how we use these cognitive load estimation techniques. Now you can always question our findings, and we encourage that or we welcome that, because the present evaluation or development was constrained by the present availability of technology or devices. But still, we will quickly go through a few applications and devices to give you an idea that how you can use the existing cognitive load estimation theories for extended reality application comparisons or evaluation.
So we set up lab with the following set of devices. So for augmented reality system, we used a video see-through interface. And for mixed reality, we use the Microsoft HoloLens. For virtual reality, we use HTC Vive Pro Y, which has integrated eye tracker. HoloLens also have integrated eye tracker, although the specification is different from the one available with HTC Vive Pro Y. And for screen-based system, we used a Tobii Pro X3 120 eye tracker. We also used motion capture systems, specifically the OptiTrack Flex 13 system to measure hand movements, and also used a 32 channel EEG device and the analysis already presented by Omkar for comparing different extended reality applications. To start with, first we developed a sensor dashboard which is somehow related to Industry 4 applications, and we evaluated 2D graphs rendered on 2D media, that screen, then 3D graphs rendered on 2D display, and also 3D graph rendered on 3D display. Now in all these upcoming slides, if you would like to have further details, you can look at the bottom of the slides where I put a reference to our research paper. So without going into much details of our findings, we mostly reported a speed accuracy trade-off, means that users were more accurate when 3D graphs are rendered in 3D media, but they were faster in response when the similar graphs are displayed on a 2D screen. We developed a 3D equivalent to FITS law task, or the ISO 9241 pointing task. So just to give you a brief intro, so FITS law task was, or it was published as a paper in the Journal of Experimental Psychology in mid-50s by Paul M. Fitts, and later in 1979 Stuart Curd used the same law to predict to Xerox PARC that mouse is going to be the fastest computing device, and from then onwards it becomes a ergonomic or ISO standard for evaluating any pointing device. So we developed a Slor ISO 9241 pointing task in 3D, and we found that the users, of course, most fastest or having least cognitive load with 2D display or video see-through display, and their physiological parameter indicating cognitive load is higher for mixed reality system. Next, we developed, along with senior engineer from Faurecia or Forvia, as a external research program sort of collaboration, VR and MR implementation of welding tasks. So here you can see that one user, he is doing spot welding where he is setting up parameters in a VR interface, and the whole system was integrated to an actual welding probe which is doing the same spot welding. And we also developed system for arc welding process using both virtual and mixed reality system. So very soon you will see the mixed reality implementation for the arc welding process. And during experiment, we used a smaller desktop robot to keep the whole system safe. And for the same task of arc welding, we compared VR and MR interface, and again we found that the VR interface was easier to use and showing less value for the parameters indicating cognitive load. So here the robot is following the same path drawn by the finger of the user, just shown before. Next, camera, and it can see the lane marking, but then we created holograms or virtual obstacles coming on its way, and also other traffic participants, and the user has to take over the driving himself also at the fork of the junction. And we implemented the same system using Vuforia and video see through tablet, as well as using HoloLens. And we again find that the HoloLens was less preferred or showing higher cognitive load compared to a touchscreen device. And in conclusion, we can say that these three applications, just a limited set of applications where we use this our theories of cognitive load estimations along with other parameters. But it is very important to note that the findings will be dependent on sensor. For example, as I just mentioned, that the HoloLens eye tracker has different specification than the Tobii eye tracker used in video see-through and VR interface. Similarly, users are more accustomed with touchscreen interface, so that may not be the best control strategy. But saying so, we also noted different EEG response on the electrodes at the optical cortex whenever we are switching from mixed or augmented reality to virtual reality, which can be further investigated. And what we can consider as a takeaway point from the whole presentation, that we can consider is one of many theories of cognitive load estimation. This may not be the best or the only techniques, but this is a technique where we can use portable instruments like the EEG cap or IES tracker, and we apply the same techniques for a plethora of applications. At the beginning of the presentation also I showed some flight simulator or spacecraft simulator applications, and it can give you one of the means to compare different extended reality systems. Of course, should not be used as the only means. It should be considered in accordance with other parameters, like more direct parameters like users direct feedback or task completion time, safety, etc. But still, at the end of the day, that we present a way with some theoretical background that can reliably used as a technique to compare different extended reality system with respect to cognitive load estimation. So with that, I will finish this presentation, and thanks everyone for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Biswas. If anyone has any questions to Professor Biswas, you can email him anytime. With that, it is my privilege to introduce the next segment of our workshop, which is a showcase of some of our future innovators. So today we have three dynamic presentations from student researchers who are not only pushing the boundaries of research, but also daring to redefine the future of their fields. So first, we will be hearing from Mr. Ajoy Kumar, who will delve into virtual reality-based Zen meditation, exploring the effect of Zen meditation on EEG patterns in immersive environments. And we will also be hearing from him when he delves subsequently into VR-based mantra meditation for mental wellness. Over to you, Ajoy.
Okay. Yeah, a very good morning to all of you presenters. Myself, Ajay Kumar, I will be presenting my paper VRZM, exploring the effect of Zen meditation on EG pattern in immersive environment. So this is the table of content of my presentation. So the problem statement, the increasing rate of stress, anxiety highlight the need for more effective mental health intervention. So in this study, we explore how this VR guided Zen meditation, this is virtual reality based Zen meditation, can reduce stress and improve mental health well-being in immersive technology. So, uh, from the literature, we come to know that this meditation has a significant effect on this reducing stress, anxiety, and depression. And nowadays, it's a very common issue for all of us, like the increasing rate of this depression or anxiety. And there's a technology VR, virtual reality, which provides an immersive or personalized environment that enhances traditional mental health intervention. In early research, it was shown that potential for the reducing stress and fostering relaxation through mindfulness-based exercise. Zen meditation is a practice of practice from the Buddhism, in which we focused on our breath, and we are focusing on breath, and we are getting a relaxation state. So we are basically finding out the research gap and combining this Zen meditation with VR. So our motivation is to improve the mental status or the mental health of the participant or of the patient by integrating these two things. Our research design is consist of this pre and post study. We have two groups, VR-ZM group and VR group. This VR-ZM group represent VR meditation with Zen meditation in VR environment, and this VR group, this is the control group. There is only the VR environment is there, no Zen meditation present. So we have participant 20, 20 each, total 40, and the duration for the study is consist of 3 days, and we are taking this pre and post data. Along with this, we are taking this DAS21, that physiological and the psychological data, EEG. So on the first day, we are taking the baseline measurement, and on the third day, we are taking the post-intervention data. So for the VR environment, we are using that MetaQuest 2, and the environment is consist of natural or some landscape that are greenery, river, water, forest, like this. So for the VR group or the VR JDM group, we are giving a 10 minutes Zen meditation, audio-based Zen meditation in the virtual environment. And for the only VR group, there is no meditation, only the same environment is shown without any meditation intervention. So in the experimental procedure for the EEG, we are using Muse band, which consists of 4 channel, F7, F8, TP9, TP10, and we are taking the data using Muse LSL and streaming the data using LSL. So for the data analysis part, we are analyzing the data of DAS21, and EEG data, we are looking for theta, alpha, and beta band. For the theta, 4 to 8 Hz, alpha 8 to 13, and beta 13 to 30 Hz. We are taking this as it reflects the relaxation and meditation state, and it gives us the ratio of frontal alpha to temporal theta and alpha to beta. So for our analysis, we are taking these two key ratio to measure the pre and post result. If we look at the result, we got the psychological outcome DAS21. We got significant result in group effect, that VR-ZM group and VR group. We got significant for pre and post for the session, and we also got significant for times and group for anxiety, depression, but we didn't get any significant result on stress on VR-ZM and VR group. We can also see the interaction effect either pre or post. They start from the initial state, both the group, but eventually the post, the VR-ZM group, show a significant improvement in their stress, anxiety, and depression. Going towards EEG outcomes, we got significant result on the frontal alpha to temporal theta ratio for both three sections, like group effect, time effect, and also for the interaction effect. but for alpha to beta ratio, we didn't get any significant result. So it's changing, but that not in a significant way. The implication we can find out, like the theta, the fat alpha to frontal alpha to temporal theta ratio is significant. So it indicates a greater relaxation and focus attention after the VRZM post session. So going to a discussion, we have find out from the literature that this VR and this meditation have a significant effect. So we are combining these two things and trying to find out what's the effect on VR. There are some studies by Tarrant et al. And by Kelly et al. So these are the references of the previous literature. There we have seen that there is a reduction in depression, stress, and anxiety, and our finding is aligning with this, and also we are getting a better result with this VR. Our future perspective will be, I will increase the sample size for a broader generalization of the result. We'll now using for 10 minutes that meditative session. So we'll increase or we can increase for or better result, or the application will be in deployment in hospital, workplace, where the stress as a we can use it as a management tool. So this was from my side. Thank you. Any question?
Any questions from the audience or from the panelists available online?
So one question I can ask, if there are no questions from the room, can I go ahead?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, there are no questions from the audience?
Yes, there are a couple of questions from the audience.
Okay, then go ahead.
Please go ahead.
I would request go ahead with the audience.
Thank you, Ajay, for the presentation. My question is, when we are using virtual reality as a tool, now we can see like the occipital lobe also coming into picture. And we haven't, like I saw that you are using sensors to capture the data mostly from temporal and the frontal cortex. So any thoughts on using the occipital lobe also to collect the data and see the impact of this study, on how occipital lobe is also playing a role in decision making and calming down effect and reducing stress? Any thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. A very good observation. Uh, Actually, in this study, we are taking care of the pre and post intervention result. So uh, there is a effect. There will be an effect by the VR environment. So if we are in the future experiment, if you are looking at the during like where actually the participating experiencing the environment, there I will get some changes in the occipital lobe, and we can measure the effect with pre and post. So it will be our future work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any questions from the panelists online?
No, I think it's okay.
Great. So we'll move on to Ajoy's next presentation.
Yeah. So my next study is VR-based mantra meditation for mental well-being. So in this, here the overview. We are basically going from background and then discussing about the experiment design, then result, and discussion and conclusion part. So there are a couple of things, just like my previous study, there is VR ZM, that Zen meditation we are doing in virtual environment. So in this, we are doing a mantra meditation. So the objective is to know the significance, or to effect know the result of VR based efficacy of mantra meditation. So we are exploring the psychological and physiological features for this mantra meditation in VR. The experiment design is consist like pre and post. We are taking the baseline measurement. It consists of demographics, consent form, and EEG data, HRV data, DUS21, and PSQI for the sleep. And it the intervention time is goes from day 1 to day 7, which consists of daily VR mantra based practicing. And at the end of the 7th day, in the post intervention, we are collecting the post data. So in this study, we use the mantra meditation, that Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, for the intervention phase. These are the scenario we are using for the VR mantra meditation. The data we are taking care, like for the EEG alpha to beta ratio and frontal alpha to temporal theta ratio, and we are also taking that HRV, heart rate variability, and we are looking for RMSSD, SDNN, and there are some psychological perspective. We are looking at the behavioral data. Questionnaire used is DUS21 and PSQI, which is used for the sleep. The result is like we got a higher in the frontal alpha to temporal theta ratio in VRM group. VRM is virtual reality group with mantra meditation, compared to VRO, that the only group which is like no mantra meditation, or the control group. They are looking only at the environment, no intervention is there. And for the AV ratio, we got a lower in the VRM group compared to VRO group. This is the pre-post interaction effect, where we get a significant interaction effect between the group with respect to the time or the pre-post session. If you look at the heart rate variability, we got significant result in STNN over like VRM has the higher in group as compared to VRO. For the mean heart rate was lower in VRM group compared to the VRO group, and RMSST value were higher in the VRM group compared to VRO group. Looking at the DUS score, we got VRM group is lower as compared to VRM group is lower as compared to VRO group, and also for the stress score. If you're looking at the sleep quality index, then the sleep quality score will lower in the VRM group compared to VRO group, and there was a significant interaction between the group with respect to time on the sleep quality in the VRO group and VRM group. So the conclusion we are discussing, or the result we are getting here is like the participant after the intervention, they are getting more relaxed state or meditative state after all the 7 days intervention phase. The HRV data, the EEG data, and the questionnaire data are also significantly increased the relaxation state of the participant. There are some limitation, like this is the environment we have used was a recorded video. There was no an interactive part, so we can in the future we can add an interactive to the participant with the environment. And like there was a part of future we can do also, we can plan to collect more participant data to increase the sample size. So I want to acknowledge IIT Mandi and all the for financial and technical support to carry out our research.
Thank you for hearing.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience or the panelists available online?
So any questions from the audience there, Akash?
No, sir, not as of now. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Gunjanji, you have any suggestions, questions, please go ahead. Gunjanji, you are muted. I'm not able to hear you. Akash, you're getting sir's voice?
No, sir. Dr. Trivedi,
Yeah.
are you being able to hear us?
Yeah, maybe Dr. Trivedi, you can just put your question in the chat and then we can otherwise.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear
Can
you
you
now, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. No, I think it's very nice, Ajay. This is something close to my heart. A quick question on top of the existing excellent result is, did you explore what happened during the practice in terms of some form of correlation between the heart signals as well as the brain signals? Or was it not part of the scope?
Uh, yeah, uh, actually we are looking at the pre and post result. So yeah, we can look in our future perspective, like in the during, like this was a 7-day intervention phase. So we can look at day 2, day 4 like this.
Yes. Okay, it will be interesting. Thank you.
Okay,
Well done.
thank you, sir.
Liked it.
Yeah, some of the recent studies we are also looking at during the intervention, and we start to see, it would be interesting to see how the effects move from pre to post. But the problem during is that sometimes, there are, when you're doing the things, certain other effects might also show up because you are paying attention and so there may be some other activity and there may be some artifacts. So yeah, but point well taken that during the intervention may also be a good point to analyze.
Thank you, sir. So if there are no further questions, we will move on to the next presentation where we have Ms. Malika Nagpal exploring the frontiers of social robotics with a fresh, innovative approach with her research work titled Could Human Robot Interaction Enhance English Comprehension Skills Compared to Traditional Text-Based Reading? A Behavioral Thermographic Analysis. Over to you, Ms. Malika.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Malika Nagpal, and I am a PhD scholar at Indian Institute of Technology, Mandi, Himachal Pradesh, India. So the title of my paper is Could Human-Robot Interaction Enhance English Comprehension Skills Compared to Traditional Text Reading? A Behavioral Thermographic Analysis. So in India, English is one of the official languages and is pivotal in higher education and professional fields. However, in Himachal Pradesh, most of the students are fluent in Hindi, which is their first language, their mother tongue, but they struggle with English, which is their second language, due to limited exposure and resources. So according to the ASER 2021 report, which is the annual status of educational report, only 10.6% of rural students in class 5 can read English fluently, which highlights a significant gap in language skills. So this study addresses these challenges by investigating the effectiveness of social robots as an innovative and scalable solution to bridge this gap. So there are several studies that have shown that how social robots can significantly aid in learning, English comprehension, and acquisition. For example, a study claimed that robotic technologies were beneficial in promoting the acquisition of new words, as well as enhancing understanding levels among various age groups. Then there are studies that indicate the interactional technologies, including robots that are capable of boosting learning through personalization and instant feedback provision. And then there are even studies that enhance the motivation levels of the students, which leads to better academic achievement. So there are two primary objectives of this paper. One is to investigate whether social robots can can improve English comprehension as compared to the traditional text reading methods. And the other one is to assess emotional and cognitive engagement during robot interactions using thermal imaging to measure facial temperature changes. So this is the experimental design. So there were 60 individuals, participants ranging from the age of 18 to 30 that were selected using a probabilistic random sampling strategy from the Indian Institute of Technology to comprise the sample, and 3 groups were formed out of it. One was the OBOT group, the other was reading and control. In each group there were 20 participants. So before the intervention, the participants' consent and demographic profile was taken via a Google form, and then the OBOT was trained using a retrieval augmented generation on GPT 4.0 with the poem Trains by James S. Tippett. Yeah. So a social robot, OBOT, which was used in this study, was designed to interact with the humans, offering personalized and engaging learning experiences through real-time communication and feedback. And these social robots provide a very cost-effective and scalable solution, particularly in resource-limited educational settings, offering consistent teaching methods where trained teachers are scarce. And large language models like ChatGPT enhance the interactivity of social robots by enabling them to generate human-like text, making them more dynamic and personalized. So this is a photo of a social robot which was used in the study. And then the thermographic technique was used. It's a non-invasive technique that measures temperatures variations in the face, often associated with emotional engagement and cognitive load. So it is used to track facial temperature changes, serving as an indicator of emotional states and cognitive effort during interactions with the social robot, as was done in this study. So this was the camera which was used, FLIR 1, and it was used to record facial temperatures before and after the interventions, and the color gradients shows the minimum and the maximum and average temperature of the participants, and this detects the live temperature of the participant. So this is the demographic profile. So there were 60 participants, and the mean age was 23.5, ranging from 18 to 30 years, and 45% females, 55% males, and the participants were of different with different backgrounds to ensure sample diversity. So the poem Trains by James S. Tippett was served as a stimulus for OBOT and the reading group. So in the OBOT group, the participants interacted with the OBOT robot. So these are the reactions of the OBOT which it gave while interacting with the participants. So when the participants asked the question, or when the OBOT was thinking, and when the OBOT greets the participants, so these are the various phases of OBOT while interacting with the participants. Then is the reading group, in which the participants just understood the poem by reading the questions and their answers by the Google form that was provided to them. And then is the control group, which did not receive any quiz or questions or answers from the poem. Rather, this group was included to establish a baseline for comparison with the OBOT and the reading group. So the control group were not exposed to any specific intervention related to the poem. Instead, they were given a certain set of general questions that were not related to English comprehension, but this was given to ensure that the participant engage for a similar amount of time as the other two groups, so to ensure that the changes such as the facial temperatures were not simply because of the passage of time, but linked to specific interventions. So yeah, before that, like before the intervention, we were the pre-photo of the pre-thermal photo was taken, and after the intervention, again the photo was taken, which was later analyzed. So the data, this it was collected using Google Forms for quizzes and subjective feedback, and thermal images were captured before and after using the FLIR camera, and statistical analysis was conducted to compare quiz performance and participant engagement across the three groups. A one-way ANOVA was performed to identify significant differences in emotional engagement and cognitive load groups between the groups. So in the result of the quiz responses, this figure shows the analysis of the participants' quiz responses comparing the OBOT and the reading interventions group. So overall, there were not any significant changes in the correct responses between the OBOT and the reading group across all the questions. As you can see, the blue one denotes the OBOT group and the red is the reading group. So similarly, the correct responses scores across all the questions showed no difference among the overall responses too. So this result suggests that the OBOT and the reading groups were equally effective in terms of improving participants' quiz performance, and therefore both the methods could be considered viable options for the intervention to enhance quiz scores in the studied context. And this is the thermal imaging interpretation. So this table shows the average facial temperature measured from different facial regions, that is the forehead, left cheek, right cheek, nose, and across all the four regions. So we focused on just these four regions, which is forehead, left cheek, right cheek, and nose, and the average temperature of all these areas. So in the OBOT group, there was a decrease in the average temperature from 28.7 to 27.92 post-intervention, which potentially suggests a reduction in physiological arousal or an increase in relaxation after interacting with the OBOT. For the reading group, the average temperature increased from 28.67 to 29.8, and in the control group, there was negligible change in temperature. So this study compared the effectiveness of two methods for enhancing English comprehension, the OBOT group and the reading group. Both methods were found to be similarly effective in improving comprehension, suggesting that technology-mediated learning, in this case OBOT, can serve as a viable alternative to traditional reading. However, thermal imaging revealed that participants in the OBOT group exhibited lower facial temperature, indicating calmness and ease, while the reading group showed signs of higher cognitive and emotional exertion. So these findings suggest that the interactive robots can enhance emotional well-being and engagement, offering an additional benefit beyond traditional methods. The study highlights the potential of social robots to support cognitive engagement and improve emotional experiences of learners. So there is a key limitation of this current study, that is the brief intervention period, which only covered the immediate effects of the integrating social robots like OBOT into language learning, and long-term studies are crucial to understand the potential benefits of social robots in education, including continuous evaluation for language retention, engagement, and overall learning outcomes. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malika. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Malika, for the presentation. One question that I have in mind: can this study be translated to any language which is not known by the participant? Let's say we start with Spanish. So will the effect, do you think the effects will remain constant? And yeah, I can continue with the second question if you want.
Yeah, actually in this study, we are just focusing on the problem with the English comprehension, specifically in Himachal Pradesh. It depends on the training of the OBOT, how you train it. If you specifically train it for that specific language, you can do it. But we are focusing on the English comprehension because that is a problem in India. So that's why.
Yes, I'm asking from the perspective of humans.
Okay.
Do you think that humans will be like, you will see similar results for a language which is not known by those participants? For example, you say that humans were more calm when they were a given intervention by a OBOT compared to the reading group. So do you think this result will be same? Because now a technology equipment will be present in front of them while they are learning a new language, not only in the comprehension phase. They obviously they have to comprehend what is being taught to them, but that language is very new to them. They do not know anything about it. So will that be a frontier where social robots can play a role? And how do you see this being translated to learning new languages along with the comprehension?
Yeah, I think we need to conduct a study for that. But in this case, what we're talking about, that there was a relaxation, we are analyzing that that was because of the interaction with the social robot. But what you're saying, I think we need to conduct a study for that to see what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from the panelists?
Just I wanted to check regarding this suggestion which was made by Shashank. So what was the concrete suggestion of the study? Maybe can you just elaborate a bit?
Yes. So my suggestion was to understand whether new languages where participants do not have any idea, whether technology equipments like obots can play a role in helping them learn these new languages, because people who are not
Got
bilingual
it.
or trilingual, they do not have very good susceptibility to learn new languages. Like they refrain from
Yeah.
yeah. So they face it difficult to learn new languages. But if we can provide a similar kind, like if we can see humans are more natural to products like OBOT in learning new languages and comprehending in their comprehension, will that be a impact rather than what will be the impact in these studies? This was the question.
Yeah, very good thoughts. And I guess this will require a lot of system development even before a study can be done, where we actually make a AI system which can educate students on learning the language of interest, and we will have to see how the AI LLM capabilities are for that particular language. And as far as Indian languages are concerned, see, the Hindi and many of the regional languages are something which we learn. But I think if we can focus on English learning, then that can be a good point to take. Yeah. So Malika, I think, has noted down your suggestion for a future study. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So thank you all the presenters. So we now move on to one of our more exciting segments of this workshop, which is the panel discussion. So before we move on to the panel discussion, I just wanted to confirm whether all the panelists are present. Dr. Gupta, are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
Great. Dr. Trivedi? Yes, great. And I presume Professor Dutt is also here.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Yes.
Yeah, we can all hear you. Thank you. We are all available.
Great, great. So on behalf of all the workshop organizers, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the panel discussion segment. So the panel discussion is titled rather, Cognitive Augmentation and Mental Health Mitigation through XR and Intelligent Robotics, Pushing the Boundaries of Human Potential. So as we stand at the intersection of technological revolutions, the prospect of augmenting human cognitive abilities and supporting mental health through advanced systems is no longer a distant vision. So the convergence of extended reality, intelligent social robotics, machine learning, neuroscience, It has opened up unprecedented opportunities for enhancing human potential, not only in high performance tasks, but also in everyday life, decision making, mental well-being. So, as a moderator, to frame today's discussion, let's first consider the landscape we are operating within. Extended reality has already begun transforming industries such as healthcare, education, training, and entertainment by immersing users in synthetic environments that are both highly interactive and perceptually realistic. When combined with the intelligent robotics, XR becomes a tool not only for interaction, but also for cognitive assistance. That is, creating systems that adapt in real time to human needs. Whether it's alleviating cognitive overload in high stress environments, like, say, surgery or military training, training simulations rather, or even daily productivity tasks, these technologies are being positioned to expand our cognitive limits. So the challenge is to ensure that cognitive augmentation technologies, particularly when we are speaking from the perspective of embedding XR environments and intelligent robotics, so the idea is to ensure that they are developed with the complexities of human cognition and mental health at their core. So each of these fields offer unique insights, but it's when they come together that we truly begin to understand the immense potential and the challenges of pushing the boundaries of human cognition. So we are very lucky today that we are joined by a group of experts across a broad spectrum of fields: neuroscience, machine learning, mental health, extended reality, robotics, and healthcare data science. So I'll be introducing each of our panelists one by one. So our first panelist today is Professor Varun Dutt, who is an associate professor in the School of Computing and Electrical Engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Mandi. So his research interests include cognitive science, human-computer interaction, and behavioral decision-making, along with artificial intelligence. Professor Dutt's work often involves integrating computational models with cognitive theories to understand and improve decision-making in complex environments. So he has published extensively on topics such as human-machine interaction, risk perception, and learning under uncertainty, contributing to both theoretical and applied aspects of cognitive science and artificial intelligence. So his interdisciplinary approach has bridged computer science, psychology, and behavioral research. Our next panelist, I believe we have already had the fortune of introducing Dr. Gunyan Trivedi, who is going to be our next panelist. And our third panelist for the day is Dr. Anmol Gupta, who is from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, and also serves as the CEO of Mithyaverse Private Limited. His expertise lies in the domains of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and advanced immersive computing systems. So at IIT Roorkee, he contributes to cutting-edge research in areas such as extended reality, artificial intelligence, and human-computer interaction. And as the CEO of Mithyaverse Private Limited, he leads the development of innovative virtual reality platforms, blending traditional cognitive enhancement methods with immersive experiences to create unique digital worlds. Dr. Gupta is at the forefront of merging academic research with entrepreneurial ventures. So our next panelist is Mr. Shashank Utrani, who is a principal data scientist, R&D at Syneos Health, where he leads data-driven innovations in the healthcare sector. With deep expertise in advanced analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, he focuses on developing solutions that optimize clinical trials, drug development, and patient care. So his work bridges the gap between data science and healthcare, ensuring that AI-driven models can translate complex healthcare data into actionable insights. So Mr. Utrani has been widely recognized for his contributions to leveraging cutting-edge technology to solve some of the most challenging problems in the healthcare industry. So a warm welcome to all the panelists. So to kick off our panel discussion, I now request all our panelists one by one to give a short opening statement framing the discussion in their field of expertise. First, I would like to ask Professor Varun Dutt to do the same. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, so thank you for the kind in welcome and for the introduction. So Akash, how we are going to move this panel, I want to check. Would you be asking some questions and then we'll be moving forward, or we take turns? Can you just briefly comment on that?
Sure. So the format of the panel discussion is such that we'll be expecting a very short and brief opening statement from all of you, setting the context or setting the perspective rather on the assigned topic, which is extended reality and intelligent robotics. So after the opening statements from all the panelists, we'll be moving on to certain questions that we have cherry-picked, which will be asked to each of the panelists within the realm of their expertise. And then there will be a couple of cross-panelist questions as well, which basically means that there will be some questions which will be directed to each of the panelists so that they can express their perspectives and they can bring into the fore their expertise on those specific topics. And then we'll have a short audience Q&A if at all the audience has any questions on the different kinds of discussions that have taken place in the panel. So that is going to be the format, sir. Is there any other? Okay. Yeah. Is there any other questions?
Yeah. No, it's fine. Now we know. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity. So my opening statement is that generally see the idea of XR is revolutionary. We are able to get to things, to be able to experience things. And when I say XR, I am talking about the whole spectrum, right from VR to AR. We are able to, particularly in VR, we are able to solve problems like, for example, things where, if we try doing those things, this can cost somebody's life. Like, for example, training people against landslide disasters, making person fly a plane before the person enters the cockpit. So the idea of cognitive augmentation of XR is very important. Particularly, we need to understand who is in the cockpit or who is experiencing the slide. And there are a number of issues which I guess this panel will dwell into, leading to cognitive load and others. So looking forward to learning and discussing these issues in this panel. Thank you.
That's great, sir. Thank you. Dr. Trivedi, over to you. Dr. Trivedi, we are not being able to hear you. Dr. Trivedi, we are still not being able to hear you. Dr. Trivedi, we are not being able to hear you. Sorry, sir, but we are not being able to hear you. So if you can try disconnecting and reconnecting. Yeah. So meanwhile, we'll move on to Dr. Gupta, your opening statement. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me in this esteemed panel. So this workshop, the idea of the whole workshop is very exciting to me in particular because I do work in this field itself of this accumulation or this intersection of this interdisciplinary field where we integrate XR with AI and cognitive science, psychology, and computational neuroscience itself. So talking about the topics of cognitive workload or mental health alongside all this advancement that we are going to have or we are already having in terms of AI, like only recently it has been announced that Nobel Prize has been given to Dr. Hopfield and Dr. Hinton. For their contribution to AI, right? And in the same space, you must have seen the latest Ray-Ban glasses from Meta. So all of these advances in these fields of XR, as sir said, AR and VR both, and mostly in AR now, like the technology is shifting towards that, I can see, and it will create new challenges. In terms of mental health, my particular research is in depression itself, and I have worked in different fields of like cognitive workload estimation, and then seeing how depression can be viewed through the models of cognitive modeling, and then seen some have some work on the intervention side as well to assess meditation and alongside EEG. So it's a very interesting time for the field, and I think like I look forward to hear the discussion with the esteemed panel and see how this field is going to advance and how these robotics can also come into play. Now robotics companies are coming up every day with better models. Neuralink has also been there, and Tesla has also moved into this space. So yeah, look forward to discussing all of this with you. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Trivedi, if we could try you again for your opening statement. Can you hear us?
Sir, I think you're on mute this time.
Yeah,
I think you're muted, Dr.
Gunjanji.
Trivedi.
Yeah,
Can you
now.
hear us?
Sorry, yes. The
Still
thing is
muted.
not,
Yeah.
yeah. Now,
Now, yes.
can you hear me?
We can hear you, but very bleakly, Dr. Trivedi, if you could try changing your audio source.
This should be okay. Let me go near.
Yes, now it's fine, sir. Please.
I wanted to add a perspective that recent research, this is Lancet, says that about 50% of the individuals who come to mental health centers have a likely scenario of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And therefore, and it comes with a lot of overlaps of major depressive disorder, borderline personality disorder, ADHD, and a lot more. Being able to deal with such situations in terms of both assessing and addressing is not humanly easy and possible. We have assessed about 300 of them as part of a panelist group of therapists. And I think there's a huge opportunity across the mental health spectrum, specifically giving this example on what role extended reality can play. Assessing from the body signals, because all of them have some form of somatization, and therefore it is likely that we can assess them using sensors both based on the body. And the solution for PTSD, not complex PTSD, involves eye movement, and therefore there is some role in understanding that either visually or through the EEG, also to understand if the interventions are required and whether they are effective. So that should suffice in terms of my perspective on the role of XR in mental health.
Great. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Mr. Utrani.
Thank you. Thank you for taking me in this panel. Yes, so as an opening thought, XR being one of the frontiers in medical technologies as well has been very effective, and there has been research where augmented reality is being now integrated within the human factors of surgery. So there have been research where they have included robots and human in the loop systems and models where we can provide these kind of advancements in the technology in the medical sector, and the healthcare sector is also benefiting with the advancements in these areas such as large language models. So and also we just saw that how students have used VR and social robots in the field of mental wellness and well-being. So yeah, all in all, I'm very happy to discuss on the topics of how technology today will be able to help in from the perspective of health informatics and medical resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Utrani. So thank you all, the panelists, for your opening statements. Very informative and great perspectives. So my first question is directed to Professor Dutt. So Professor Dutt, extended reality and intelligent robotics, for that matter, they've shown a lot of potential in mitigating workload in high stress professions like surgery or air traffic control, military based decision making, etc. So we have already seen a bit of it. We have already seen a very a small trailer of it from the perspective of Professor Biswas's research on cognitive load estimation, especially from the context of Air Force. What do you think are the current technological barriers preventing widespread adoption of these systems? And if you could also comment on how you could see intelligent social robotics play a more active role in real-time workload redistribution.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Akash. And this is a very, very important topic. So, in general, as we all know, extended reality in more generally, and when I say intelligent robotics, I am also attributing to things like AI, which is basically behind the motor movements and robots. The idea is that these technologies have shown immense potential in particularly in high stress environments. Some of the environments which Shashank was mentioning related to surgery, related to health, related to air traffic control, some of the applications which Gunyan Y was mentioning related to mental health. But as you know, any technology comes with its, the things which we need to watch out for. And one aspect which, from my own experience, has been particularly the cost of the hardware and the infrastructure which one needs to deploy for able to do all this. So, for example, typically such kind of technologies may require a lot of sophisticated workstation, graphics processing, sensors, computing resources. There is another aspect of it, which is when we try to measure biosignals in real time, as well as evaluate the biosignals in real time, be able to process this, give neuro biofeedback on the interface. There may be latency issues. Specifically, Ajoy in his talk was mentioning about LSL protocol and many of these technologies where we stream large amounts of data in real time. And latency and real-time processing can be a challenge. Another issue is basically the idea itself that oftentimes when we develop these XR technologies, we forget the human altogether. And we need to be able to remember that we may need to personalize this technology looking at the human factors, specifically the demographic profile of the human participant, the kind of prior experiences the person comes from, the profession and the training of the person to be able to get benefited. Of course, one other issue which is of concern in today's world could also be related to ethics and safety, which I was actually referring to, where oftentimes we can actually have systems where we may have to rely on fail-safe measures, like for example landslide. I was giving an example. So idea is that if robot, and also say in the flight operations, if the robot is taking over operations, we want to make sure everybody is safe. One does not actually experience tragedies and accidents and landslides in the real world. Now, in terms of, you also, I think your second part of the question was on specifically on how one could use some of these technologies for workload redistribution. And one aspect of it is that there are different ideas out here. In our own research here, there was a project from Center of AI and Robotics, Bengaluru DRDO lab, and there we were actually trying to search an environment where a human being is searching an environment with a robot. And the idea there is that how do we do it? How much is the load being balanced between the robot and the human? So here again, I will believe that the AI technologies can come into forefront, where we actually look at the biosignals typically coming from sensors, persons, human operators, which is mostly indicative of human operators' cognitive load, which Pradipto was mentioning in his talk, or the stress level, and then dynamically allocate non-critical, I would say critical are things which we cannot allocate, we should not allocate to robot, because there can be a question of life and death, but non-critical kind of decisions to the AI, so that the AI becomes an aid where it can actually help the human operator decrease those kind of loads. So this is a quick perspective on how we could do it, and passing the floor back to you, the stage back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's a wonderful perspective. So carrying on from that, my next question would be directed to Dr. Gupta. So Dr. Gupta, we have seen that recent advances in computational neuroscience and machine learning in general have shown a lot of promise in decoding cognitive states in real time, right? So, what do you think are the specific challenges in creating robust and efficient models that can predict cognitive overload or burnout, fatigue? So, and how do you think these models can be refined for use in XR environments to provide seamless cognitive augmentation without actually overwhelming users?
Yeah. So I think like the specific challenges, like Varun sir already mentioned, that you have to integrate all the tools that you're collecting the data from in real time, like LSL protocol. We have all worked with it to stream data from EEG and VR together, right? So this is one of the biggest challenges that we have to get real time data. And then if we talk from the perspective of machine learning, it's all about the data, right? It's all about the data set. So if you talk about the latest advances in any of the models, you might have seen so different models have different sizes, right? If we talk about GPT-4, 4.0, and then GPT-3 or Llama 3.2, then all the models are released, open source models. For example, Llama is from 70 billion model is also there, the number of parameters I'm talking about. Then 7 billion is also there. And we see that there are smaller models now overtaking the larger models in certain tasks, right? So why is this happening? This is happening because the data quality is getting better and better day by day. All the data we have already transcribed, all the data from the internet. No more data is actually left out now. So now they are working on the quality of the data. So in order to build an algorithm which can do this workload estimation in real time, we need better data. And alongside, because we are talking about real time, we need stable predictions as well. So better data, robust data, and stable prediction, I think. So for this robustness, including introducing this robustness in data and the predictions, we'll have to have a multi-modality in this. So EEG, as Kunjan sir also mentioned earlier, using HRV or eye tracking in the research. So and obviously, like when we are saying XR with EEG, it's again a multimodal data that we're talking about, and to make the predictions more robust, we'll have to have different models coming together. Again, it's form of a like social robotics that you're talking about, that we have multiple agents working together and then deciding on it together. So the decision is also together, so that the decision is robust in nature, right? And then the second part of the question, that uh, how do we make sure that the cognitive augmentation do not overwhelm users? So I think UI and UX is an important part of it. If we talk from the perspective of XR, we have all designed different experiments in virtual reality, augmented reality, and now mixed reality too, right? So this cognitive workload, so we had to create these environments in such a way that the workload is not much. And in terms of um, algorithms, what we can do is we can try to use adaptive algorithms because based on the workload, as Arun sir was also mentioning, that the robot is flying and the human workload, like we have all worked on human machine teaming, how to do resource distribution there, so that has to be dynamic allocation of the resource distribution. So these dynamic, personalized, adjustable, adaptive algorithms are a way to go. So I think, yeah, these are some of the challenges and some of the solutions that we have.
Great, that's wonderful, Dr. Gupta. Thank you. So carrying on from that, this question is directed to Dr. Trivedi. So, sir, as we explore the use of extended reality and intelligent social robotics, as we have been doing in this workshop, specifically for cognitive augmentation, I have a very specific question for you. How do you foresee these technologies helping to mitigate cognitive decline or helping to mitigate mental health issues, such as, say, depression or anxiety, especially in aging populations? Could these tech-driven interventions lead to better long-term outcomes compared to, say, traditional conventional therapies or traditional medications? Can you share your perspective on that? Sir, we are not being able to hear you. You're muted.
Hello?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Again, apologies. Let me take the second part first. There is enough data on long-term efficacy of psychotherapy compared to medicines. So that part is well established. Now, the next question is, how do we integrate the human and the computer interface? Integrate technology to first support the humans, and eventually in the areas where technology can lead, let technology solve the problems. And like Professor Varun mentioned, the ethical aspects as well as the safety aspects are paramount here. So I personally believe that the human-computer interface would be more effective compared to medicines in general, unless there are emergencies or specific situations. We have numerous examples where we have been able to collaborate with the psychiatrists to phase out the medications and get better outcomes. So this is the first answer to the second part. On the first part, I think from technology, we understand the assessments, measures, and physiological parameters. If we look back at what causes chronic conditions and mental health, there are two overwhelming measures that can be developed. First, the heart to brain axis. So the heart rate variability signals degrade. Now, this is subjective, connected with age, especially in the aging population. So, how to differentiate that as a marker, a potential marker, is one area where we integrate AI as well as the devices. Second, which is overwhelming again, is the gut dysbiosis. Now, this is not easy to measure. However, whether you take Parkinson's for aging population or conditions such as hypertension or diabetes, gut dysbiosis is present. And we need to find ways to understand how we can assess it, either through HRV, through EEG, or through other ways, to be able to predict the risk levels. Once we understand the risk levels, it can change the game. And this is impossible by humans, and the medicine doesn't come in the picture. And to add, medicines, psychiatric medicines, add to the complications of gut dysbiosis. So therefore, we have, if you look at it objectively from a point of view, the gut brain axis as well as the heart brain axis, if we can integrate that into our machine learning algorithms and some body signals, it can be a breakthrough. Okay, so that's a challenge. I know it's not called out. And then the last point you had about, is computer going to be better? Like I said earlier in the discussions, there are areas where I think it's very easy to identify the variable component and address it. Two things I would call here is insomnia and stress. If we can understand and aggressively target sleep quality improvement and stress resilience, that is a component that is completely possible that can be technology managed. If we provide these facilities, it can solve half of the problems. So this three-pronged approach by combining human and computer, understanding the gut and heart brain axis, and finally, overwhelming focus on improving, not measuring sleep issues. Improving sleep issues and improving stress resilience can change the game for the technology.
Uh, Thank you, sir. That's actually a wonderful insight into that. So I think we have been extensively discussing about ethical concerns. Dr. Gupta raised that point. Professor Dutt did raise that point, and even Dr. Trivedi raised that point. So I believe it's a very good, reference point here to ask this question to Mr. Utrani. So, Mr. Utrani, as you know, healthcare data, especially in the mental health domain, is highly sensitive, right? So, how do you figure healthcare multinationals, the healthcare industry, will navigate the ethical concerns surrounding the use of cognitive and mental health data in AI driven systems? And what do you think are the measures that should be in place to protect user privacy while still allowing for meaningful cognitive augmentation? Can you share your perspective on that?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for such a articulate question. So there are three levels to provide privacy. So I can start with data privacy. Then there is data security, how well the data will be secured, and the third one is government um, prepared plans and policies that can help us in this. So I'll start with the data privacy issue. One of the major practices that we can adopt is data anonymization. We start with the data collection that we have and then anonymize the participants for a better analytics, understanding their behavior towards a medical response, their medical history. So anonymization is the first layer where we start the privacy measures. The second one is how we are securing the data, where the data is being stored. And the third one is how government is implementing different policies to ensure that this is happening. These ethics guidelines are being followed at the very root level. For example, you can take one example from a very recent application. It is prevalent in most of the countries in Asia. I'm talking about TikTok. Recently, Government of India announced that any company that wants to store data should store it in the servers within the geographical regions of that country. So this ensures that the data is properly maintained and securely stored for the participants of those country. Similar guidelines have been implemented by ICMR, which is Indian Council of Medical Research. FDA is one step ahead and they have very high protocols in how the data should be released, how and which entities can actually look or access this data. Obviously, you can see clinicaltrial.org are such platforms where publicly data is available for research purposes, but they are carefully anonymized. You will not find any patient information available. So yes, coming back to the point, how can we, what are the practices that we can implement for better AI research while not compromising on human privacy? These are the steps that we can take, both from the medical perspective and even if we are collecting mental health data, because that is now a new frontier that is being managed by these government agencies. So yeah.
Great. That's a wonderful insight and a wonderful perspective, Mr. Utrani. Thank you. So I think this is a very good reference point to move on to some questions or some perspectives which I would be expecting all the panelists to share. So these are questions which will be common for all the panelists, and we can go over the perspectives of each panelist one by one. So carrying on from what we have listened from each panelist on their perspectives on cognitive augmentation and the usage of XR systems and intelligent robotics. Now, as these fields, these vastly different fields, and they're both vastly different and vastly similar at the same time. So as these fields are converging, how do you think we can ensure that the integration of AI driven cognitive augmentation and extended reality systems remains aligned with the mental health priorities? Could each of you comment on the most significant challenges and the opportunities in integrating these technologies into one cohesive solution that both enhances cognitive ability and also supports mental wellness? So, Professor Dutt, why don't you start? Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so in terms of basically your question, a very good question. I would like to say that particularly one important thing in this aspect is when we are using an XR enhanced environment, one has to focus on cognitive load assessment. And specifically, if we are able to assess cognitive loads through different methods, there are different approaches to doing it. Some are reliant on the performance, some are reliant on biofeedback and other types of technologies. Then we are able to decide, this idea of helping the doctor, helping the psychologist, helping the air traffic controller, or helping the operator in providing the assistance they need, trying to offload stress or offload some of the things. So this is my quick perspective on it, and others can comment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Gupta, anything you'd like to add to what Professor Dutt just explained?
So I think like the main challenges that we have with building such platforms, integrating all these things together, that they should not come at the expense of mental health. So as a solution, what we can do is to create environments or create these solutions in a way that we are mindful of the mental health challenges that can arise through that. So one solution is to create mental health solutions using these technologies itself, which, as you have mentioned while introducing me, that I am also heading a startup called as Mithyaverse. And this is actually what we are trying to create through our startup, integrating virtual reality and AI together to create mental health solutions. So we have created different environments, different meditation environments in virtual reality. So you can put your headset in and you are there inside that environment. You can really feel that environment and then you can meditate. So guided meditations are available, right? Very beautiful looking environments are there. Nature walks, meditation like nature walks are there, where you can use virtual reality to actually walk inside that environment, right? So we need to create more and more such tools which can support mental health using this technology itself. So I would say that is one of the challenges and the solution to it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Trivedi, if you'd like to comment on the same and add on to the same perspectives given from Dr. Gupta and Professor Dutt, specifically from the perspective of psychophysiological feedback, like you mentioned the possible and potential use of heart rate variability or skin conductance or any of the other physiological measures during these XR integrated, well, if I can call it behavioral therapy sessions. How do you think integrating these real-time physiological data into the CBT framework or into the potential XR-based CBT framework, would you think it would improve treatment outcomes significantly?
Yes, so building on what Dr. Anmol Gupta said, we cannot do this at the expense of mental health issues, correct? And therefore, what I would add is that let's take it in the areas where you want to enhance the peak performance, athletes, corporate individuals, where it's much easier and the risk of degrading or causing issues with mental health doesn't come. In fact, it changes the game into a more positive end of the spectrum. Starting there, the likelihood of developing success models is much higher. And then slowly we move down the spectrum into the areas where there are variable issues like I talked in my talk. So instead of focusing primarily on addressing mental health, we could focus on enhancing the focus, sharpness, cognitive functions, and sleep improvement is part of that given the Gen Z and where the world is going. So that would be my only addition, that let's get well-being improved versus removing depression and anxiety. That positive psychology resilience would eventually spread into the other end of the spectrum.
That's actually a great point, sir. So I would like to carry on to Mr. Utrani, especially to comment on scalability of these systems. Now, Mr. Utrani, we have seen that most of these XR and AI-driven systems, if I can call them that, they remain experimental or kind of very niche use cases with a very specific demographic, right? And scalability has always remained a challenge. So from the perspective of an industry, a healthcare industry, being a representative of a healthcare industry, what infrastructure, and you can comment on infrastructure from computational terms or regulatory terms or financial terms, what infrastructure do you think is required to actually bring these systems to the broader public or industrial settings at scale? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So before we talk about the scalability, we need to understand the human perspective as well from the acceptability point of view. So for example, let's take Neuralink as an example. There has been a lot of research since last 15 years on this, where we want to implant these chips. Let me call them chips. I'm not going to call them entire processors, but yeah, we want to collect information. We want to send signals through this, and this is an invasive step. So people are hesitant to even participate, but we have seen a trend nowadays. If you look at the clinical trial requisition form, the website, when Neuralink released that form, within 6 hours they had 100,000 entries, and they had to shut down the clinical trial acceptance form. So we can see there is a trend of acceptance in this generation, like compared to what we saw 10 or 15 years back. Also, the acceptability of AI within the healthcare domain. People are is still until this state, people are hesitant to take medicine which is recommended by a AI system. There are certain laws within developed nations, for example, US and Germany have their models developed, but they are not very sure to release it in the market to prescribe medicines. So coming to the scalability from the perspective of technology, or coming to the scalability from financial help that is needed, obviously these will be a big chunks to digest at a later stage. But before we go on to the financial and technical or technological scalability, we need to understand the level at which humans are going to accept this change. So if we are at pace with that, yes, we will be able to accommodate all the new requests or new changes that we want to abide by.
That's quite a unique insight, Mr. Osrani. Thank you. Any of the panelists would like to add to that, would like to comment on his perspectives on scalability? Dr. Gupta?
I would like to add one thing here, is that to make these systems scalable, we need to start slow. In terms of human adaptability of these systems, right? As Shashank very rightly said that when Neuralink opened this form, that so many users were there. But then if we look at the actual transplants which have happened after FDA has approved the transplants of these chips into the brain, then we can see that people who are actually suffering from paralysis, complete paralysis, and they're not able to convey their thoughts, are very open to use this, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, in terms of studies, various researchers have been been done in terms of mental health using ChatGPT for mental health. So people have there are different sort of studies where they have revealed that the answers are given by ChatGPT, where they have not revealed that the answers are given by ChatGPT, and then they have asked the users to rate the answers, and usually they have found that it is better than a therapist, a counseling session in most of the studies. So we need to target the areas where there is dearth of solutions that we have. For example, if we talk about number of therapists versus number of mental health patients in India, it's just a bridge too wide to cover. Like we cannot bridge this gap, huge gap. So we can, what we can do is we can make these social robots, just as Malika presented, so that we can do in community health, community mental health care. I think this is one of the solutions that we can adopt in community mental health services, and then we can have these social robots come together. So the scalability will come from adoptability, and the adoptability can come from targeting the user section which needs it the most, and the existing solutions cannot reach that public. I would like to say. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Trivedi, one more segment of one more perspective that you had mentioned was on the ethical dilemmas. I think even Dr. Gupta had touched it upon that. So, as a closing statement, what do you see as some of the key ethical dilemmas in using AI and XR for cognitive enhancement and mental health? Like, let me try to explain. For instance, where do you think we should draw the line in terms of how far these technologies should go in augmenting cognition, or for that matter augmenting mental health, without risking over dependencies or exploitation?
So, couple of ways. First, it is very likely that in next few years we can predict the history of mental health for an individual. These examples could include suicide behavior, and suicide only in 2017 has been decriminalized in India. So there's still a taboo connected to certain mental health conditions. At the same time, I'm pretty confident that technology can predict such risks and help us mitigate for the family's sake. However, there is a clear ethical issue here about people don't want to talk about it, and if the machines can identify it, it's a Pandora's box. So this is one where I think we have to be very careful, especially on the Gen Z, the young teens or individuals below 18. This needs to be managed very differently to what traditionally is done. Where when I meet psychiatrists, sometimes there are patients in the office and they talk while we are sitting there. This is very common in the Indian context. So this is one. And second, the prediction error in such cases could be catastrophic if we only depend on the machines. And Dr. Varun also talked about that in the air traffic or surgery situations. But in mental health, especially extreme situations which are volatile, like borderline personality or trauma, it is not acceptable to have false diagnosis. That could cause an in a kind of a indication to the client that this could be happening, and this with individuals who are already vulnerable could be a transference where they start to believe that this is them. We've had some cases such as this, even when we have human to human interaction. So this is second area which has implications if there is a problem.
That's a great insight, sir. Professor Dutt, if you'd like to add your perspective on the same, on the ethical dilemmas, on the potential ethical dilemmas.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Great. So there are two things I would like to add. Very good thoughts have been communicated, Dr. Trivedi, Anmol, and others. One aspect of it is to do with trust. And of course, this may be a non-technological issue, but when anything you want to scale up or adopt to a societal level, you need to create this aspect of trust. And now we are talking about trust in AI, and there are also a lot of concepts on AI being biased or AI probably not. But I think the aspect of bringing this explainable AI, where we can actually explain the algorithm or be able to explain how the decision was arrived by the algorithm, the human, is very important in this aspect. Because explainability is one way of instilling trust. The other is more on the technology side regarding, of course, and this also touches upon ethically the trust aspect, the ethicality or the adoption aspect. But there is another aspect which is technology, and I was telling that these systems are difficult to scale up because they require a lot of compute, they require a lot of investment in technology. Recently, IoT world has seen something called edge compute, where you are able to now do compute on the device itself and such kind of. So these are kind of the futuristic ideas on how we could use edge and edge computing in general to reduce the scalability, to kind of reduce the cost and bring about the scalability. So these are my two thoughts about it, and thank you, Akash.
Thank you, sir. Very interesting insight there. So I thank all the panelists for sharing all your valuable insights and perspectives on cognitive augmentation and mental health mitigation through XR and intelligent robotics. So I now open the floor for questions. Any questions from the audience? Yeah, I believe, since it's lunch break here, I believe a few of our audience have actually left. So I'd like to inform all the audience that if at all you have any personalized questions you would like to ask to any of our panelists, we'll be leaving their contact details here at the workshop, here at the conference registration desk. So you can easily contact them, and if at all you want to set up any insightful collaborations in the future, that can also happen. So thank you. So as we conclude this very, very insightful discussion, it's probably clear that the intersection of extended reality, intelligent robotics, artificial intelligence, and neuroscience is more than just a technological frontier. It represents a new paradigm for human potential. So I'd like to thank all our esteemed panelists who have highlighted the immense possibilities for cognitive augmentation, workload management, and mental health mitigation. We have also explored how cognitive load prediction and immersion in XR can all be leveraged through advanced AI, intelligent robotics, and XR systems, which is kind of pushing us toward a future where our mental health and cognitive capacities are not only preserved, but also enhanced. But we have also seen in our discussion that alongside these opportunities, there are substantial challenges that need to be negotiated. We need to ensure that these technologies remain ethical, scalable, and personalized. And that requires careful attention to privacy concerns, fairness in AI, and the risk of cognitive overload. So it's very essential that as we continue to develop these systems, we keep the human user at the center of the design so that we are constantly iterating to ensure that technology serves to augment rather than overwhelm or replace. So I believe it's safe for me to conclude saying that while we are moving forward, we must foster collaboration across different fields. I sincerely believe this is something that I have heard Dr. Trivedi say a lot of times, that collaboration needs to be across fields, be it neuroscience, be it AI, be it mental health, be it human factors engineering, or be it user interface design in extended reality, so that we can ensure that innovations are accessible, adaptable, and above all, beneficial to the human well-being. So with the contributions from today's panel discussion, I sincerely believe we are one step closer to realizing the incredible potential of cognitive augmentation in a way that not just enhances human performance, but also takes care of our mental and emotional wellness. So, as we draw this session to a close, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all our panelists for sharing their invaluable insights and expertise. So, a big thank you to Professor Dutt, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Trivedi, Mr. Shashank Utrani, and also Professor Biswas, who couldn't be here with us today, but made the effort to share his presentation, share his insights and expertise. So I sincerely believe all your contributions have, illuminated the complex yet exciting possibilities at the intersection of cognitive augmentation, XR, robotics, AI, and mental health. So we deeply appreciate you, all of you, for taking the time and the effort you've put into making this discussion both thought-provoking and forward-looking. I'd also like to thank all the student researchers, Ms. Malika Nagpal, Mr. Ajoy Kumar, and also Mr. Ashirbad Samantrai, who will be presenting his research work tomorrow due to a couple of scheduling conflicts. So thank you for putting forward your research work and giving your insightful perspectives on bleeding edge research in virtual reality, extended reality, and social robotics for cognitive enhancement and mental wellness. I'd also like to express my gratitude to the organizers and the sponsors and the IEEE SMC 2024 conference team for their support in making this panel discussion and this event in large possible. And lastly, a special thanks to all the attendees, all the audience here for your engagement and thoughtful participation. Your presence and curiosity fuel discussions like these. So this is what pushes the boundaries for what is actually possible. Thank you all. Thank you. And I look forward to continuing these conversations beyond today. Have a great day. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sirs.
Yeah, thank you, Akash. And please take a photograph there before you disengage. Yeah, take care. And
Sure,
thank you,
sir.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Akash.
Dr. Gupta.
everyone.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Trivedi. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.